Okay, let's call the Fire District Board meeting of October 15th to order. Could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Rory. Here. Beckman. Here. Fox. Here. Replank.
Here.
Phelps. Here. Meridian.
Here.
And Miller. Here.
We have a quorum. I'd like to remind you all to silence your cell phone, put them away, and not text during the meeting. Doesn't take that long. Could I have approval of the agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Approved. Any objections? The agenda stands as presented. Could I have approval of the minutes of the September 17th board meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for September 17th, 2018.
I'll support.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, motion stands. We can have public comment on agenda items only. Is there any member of the public that would care to address the board? Okay. Moving right along, do we have a request for payment, please?
I make a motion to pay the bills of $100,499.40.
I'll support.
A motion by Phelps and support by Beckman to approve the
Payments.
payment of $100,499.40. Although, is there any discussion?
The Spectator Sports Bar and Grill Fire Prevention, was that like a meeting or?
That is to reimburse. They purchased the products, the goods for the fire prevention open house.
Okay, got
And
it.
we reimburse them.
Oh, you guys had a good party over there.
Wow.
They didn't invite us.
Okay, is there any other questions?
The legal fees, that mostly $6,400.
Yeah, about $1,800 of that is for legal review of part of the handbook, the specific wage and labor area by a specialty attorney, and the rest of it was Board of Appeals stuff.
Hopefully that won't continue. I mean,
No,
no, I mean with the Board of Appeals, once we do it once, we shouldn't have so many.
Oh,
Yeah, we
yeah.
said, had some
Questions.
invention,
Yeah.
first time expenses.
Initial startup type thing.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a roll call vote to approve the accounts payable.
Sure. Phelps.
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Meridian.
Yes.
Replank.
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
And Rory.
Yes.
All right, moving on, financial report, Keith Carter.
Financial report, basically, we just collected some inspection and plan review fees, cost recoveries and donations, a little bit of interest. The main revenue will be coming shortly to your mailbox. And then basically all the line items were, this is what, fourth month, so we're 25%, and flip over the second page, we spent 22% of the budget that was approved back in July. I don't know if anybody has any particular line item questions, or...
Isn't this, that's pretty good to be at 22%, isn't it? Isn't there stuff that we pay? as-
Well, yeah, like, there's a lot of the insurance that, gets paid, big hunk of it, especially the workers' comp, the general insurance.
And that stuff all just got paid?
A lot of, you
Like
get
01 Central, you can show all the
a lot of those, like the
is-
testing, those are a one-time deal.
All right. And questions for Peter?
Good job, Peter.
Peter, you. Okay, moving on to the fire chief's comments.
If you refer to the screens up in front of you, the stats that were updated today by Eric, our IT director. One more call on a record 83 in September, just one over 2016, substantially over 2017. The red boxes indicate which year had the most calls, so I'll show you trends. So we're up about 16% at this time of the year. It varied from 25 to kind of creeping down. It was 18, 17, cutting down a little bit. So 753 calls as of today. Had a pretty big weekend for considering the time of the year. But kind of surprising.
There's a lot of people in town.
It shows you activity and comparison. Typical infers reporting, showing where the calls are allocated for. Next one is year-to-date, as of September 30th. Motor vehicle incidents, 56 calls as of September 30th. So, up there, 2016 will be a standout year because of the construction on the highway. MVIs by month of our graph shows activity. Special events, 36 this time of the year. Got a number of them coming up. We have one weekend where there's 4 events. By area, self-explanatory. I-196, 17 calls in September.
That's a lot of calls for September.
This is one chart we like to see low. Overlapping calls is dramatically increased. We're at 194 calls. And that shows you where, what month. Something that's pretty significant. Personnel response. We have one person who just got off light duty. We have another person that just went on light duty. And projected property values, self-explanatory. Response times are up over 6. Year-to-date, 575.
What causes that increase in response times?
Priority 3 is just kind of the nature of it. Sometimes more mutual aid. It takes you longer to get down there. So it's mutual aid given rather than received. So geography plays into it, nature of the call.
Does it really make sense to keep track of, or at least not call out, mutual aid given, since the response times for that? I mean, I'm not looking for
It
more
actually ends
data.
up hurting you, you know, when it can, when you have a 20-minute response time to south end of Fenville.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
It's causing the average number to be higher than what it really is in the area we're responsible for.
I can work with Eric and we can.
As far as I remember from top of my head, I don't include mutual aid in my stats, but this past month was a bit unusual because we had 16 calls that was above 10 minutes, and I didn't go into why we had that many calls, that was relatively high in response time. So, but I noticed that 16 calls above 10 minutes is a bit unusual, but it can be caused by many things. For instance, if we have something in the south east part of our jurisdiction and it's the Sunday crew, they all come from the northwest side. So, but without it's just me speculating right now, without going in and analyzing all 16 calls. I can do that, of course, and find the exact reason for that.
So it's geography.
Most likely it's geography at this time of the year. And it could also be priority 3 calls, as Chief said, where we're not running lights and siren.
Could it be overlapping? You said those are way up. Maybe that's the reason they just couldn't get out.
Could be too. We didn't take the time to analyze it because we didn't have the time. So, but we'd be glad to look into that further to try to have a more accurate response next time.
I think it's always been a little bit of a roller coaster, and it
Fluctuates,
down.
you know, and we can't say it was snowing.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it looks fairly consistent.
Yeah, it's
in
not
here,
too
so
bad.
I
I
would
mean-
say nothing jumps out as being
Nothing
glaring.
bad.
No.
If that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah, look
No,
at
February.
December, well.
And then year to year,
no.
it's straight lines, so.
But Eric's right, I'm wrong in that we took out mutual aid for that reason. We did that a while back, I stand corrected.
I would just say if we see a trend going
Right.
the other way, then you start
Wondering.
digging into it, but.
Those numbers are pretty
One number.
consistent.
Yeah,
I think if you see 7.5,
yeah.
8 minutes, then we should look and see what's going on.
I would think that overlapping call thing would really be a real factor in this, because
Yeah,
you gotta finish one call before you start another call, or at least organize the call.
Depending upon the nature of the call, what you have to do to break down to get that engine or response vehicle, usually medical, you can take off. But again, probably the impact is from overlapping calls. We'll try to get you a better answer next month.
I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it.
All right.
No.
Unless it starts,
Okay.
Yeah.
unless we see a trend.
All
Right, I agree.
Don't waste time on it.
All right, fair enough, thank you. Fireboat incidents, we kind of got put on standby today in lieu of a missing person that there's reason to believe he's in the river. Extended outreach to Allen County Sheriff, they said they were in good shape. They have an assignment for us tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So they didn't want a number of boats in the water.
Doesn't Mike Johnson have a camera from his house looking at the cables?
You know, we didn't investigate it because it's a recovery,
Okay.
so he didn't want to really interfere with the sheriff until they wanted us to step up. And we had a number of calls to the station, can we come out and help? And I said, well, I just got off the phone with Sergeant Wagner, and he declined to have us out there.
The calls were from citizens.
Some kids
Citizens,
missing
yeah.
Saturday night, or Saturday morning early.
Yeah.
Not the first time it happened in Saugatuck, but.
We had 3 one summer.
Yeah.
So they've got sonar that they're using, and very cautious about putting divers in the water till they have something confirmed. So. Just shows what activity we've had on the fire roads.
How's that coming out of the water?
First week in November, the reason we kept it out was because the water reservoir is down for maintenance. And that's like a water supply pumper for downtown or wherever we can reach. So we aborted taking the boat out and talked with Anchorage and said, can we keep it in until the first week in November when the reservoir is done? They said, yeah, because at certain times we have some real water supply challenges, and that boat would allow us to run in water.
Supplement, yeah.
Yeah. So, first week of November. And they were real good with
Yeah,
being flexible. That's it, Eric?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to community risk reduction.
Fire prevention open house was still a good turnout considering the weather. We had kind of a overlapping event with the chili cook-off downtown that started an hour later, but it really is. It drizzled so much, we had about 484 people, and we're really happy with the turnout. Did something a little different this year. Hot dogs and hamburgers, there was a lot of people who thought it would be simpler. I don't believe Mike Block was kind of in charge of the food, and I don't think we had any speak out, say, you don't have chicken, you know. We had that when we dropped the fish, but we also dropped a tremendous amount of labor demands. So that's where we're at on that. And then the next up, Mike Betts, Chris Mantles, and myself spent 4 days in the elementary school. We reached out to 357 kids. The theme this year is Look, Listen, and Learn. We did a lecture in the classroom, and then we took what we learned in the classroom, applied it in the smokehouse that we rented from Holland Fire Department. So really a tremendous program that kids respond. We did pre-K through 5th grade. We'll be in the schools twice a month beginning November with a curriculum for the school year. Some of it will be done with Douglas Police. State of Michigan, sorry to say we've got 91 fatal fires. In your packet, you'll see what the Inspector Society and the Community Risk Reduction Task Force and the state have come up with. What's interesting about this is it shows fire deaths by age. We have something that's kind of a recent development. Cooking fires is the #1 cause of fires. The #1 cause of deaths is smoking. So that's something the state of Michigan is battling, and these numbers are high, and it's something that a number of organizations, including the one that we're on, are trying to get down. You can see fire deaths by the time of day. Interesting. When that occurs, look at the age, fire deaths by age. You know, some of us thought it would be the 70 plus. So great data. When we have data, we know where to go and we know what to target. So this is something that the task force and the Inspector Society update every month. We also sent this out to the school to go to the parents. I think I mentioned this earlier, firefighter injury, full-time firefighters released from work restrictions as of September 24th. We do have a paid-on-call responder who hurt his back and subsequently is not working. That concludes my comments.
Okay, we have no unfinished business, but I'm going to mention these things on your desk just so I don't forget at the end of the meeting. Jeff Pluggett asked us to come up, or suggested that we come up with a FOIA policy and procedure outline. So I've been working on this for the last month. I can't take credit for all of this, but I helped. And so I do better with hard copies, so if you take these home with you and go through them, and we'll discuss the FOIA policy at the next meeting. So if you would just read these and make any notes, I find it easier to have hard copies to make notes on. So that's that on your desk.
Question, did you quote-unquote steal this from somewhere else?
You think?
I mean, I guess that helps me understand, and, you know,
Yes.
if someone else approved all this,
It's tried.
they've already
It's
gone
tried.
through the whole process.
Tried and true.
It's better.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. I did steal this from someone else, and the attorney has gone through it. So
Okay.
if you would just read it, just some night when you can't sleep.
Steal is such a
Borrowed.
plagiarize.
Do you know if the charges are consistent with the other municipalities?
Mhm.
That's good.
Awesome.
Okay. Then moving on to new business, Want to do the FEMA AFG grant and radio system?
Assistance to firefighter grant, may I?
Yep, please.
So this is you had approved this last year, we're gonna revise it. We don't know if it's gonna be on this fiscal year or the next one, so we're asking for approval for the $7,210. We're going to update the grant and resubmit it to FEMA again. So basically, that's what it's for. It's for more portable radios. We really didn't get enough portable radios when Allegan County supplied them for us. We weren't sure how that was gonna go, and Allegan County asked us to really, at $6,000 a portable radio, they asked us to keep that down to a bare minimum, which is what we did. So, we're stretching it on that. Plus, headsets, the trucks are so loud, we need headsets in the vehicles.
So the question is, would somebody make a motion to approve the fire department going ahead with applying for this FEMA grant, knowing that we'll need $7,210 from the fire department, or approximately that, as match money?
And that's our 5%?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the process to get the grant and not to exceed $7,210.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Are these the same radios that we had problems programming earlier in the year, and we resolved that problem?
The main problem that we have were with the pagers. The pager performance is what's been lackluster.
Oh, it's the radio, or
The radios are okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the
They're two
radios
different
were
things.
fine, but the pagers are what Dorr, Layton, and Martin are having trouble with.
Okay.
We're okay with that. And the county has not, just a side note if I may, the county has not paid Motorola. They're holding out money because of the performance issues with the pagers. And it's been over a year now. I'm wrong, it'll be a year November 1st. It's been kind of a setback for the pagers, for some of the departments, but we do not have those problems.
So one more question, it says 2020, so that means the 7,000 could be budgeted into the capital plan for that year, right?
Yeah, right, because we
Not
don't
like
know
it's
the
just
cycle, they
shocking
change when they
number.
announce these and when they review them. It can be 4-month difference, and we have no control over that. So this might be a 2020 fiscal year payout.
Okay. At least we can think ahead. Okay.
Because there's so much money, we wanted to let you know about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Actually, that's not much money.
No, but, I mean, usually for our 5% matches, it's...
Right. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Chris, will you do a roll call vote?
Sure. Beckman?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Phelps?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Meridian?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
And Rory?
Yes.
Okay, since Marilyn left, we don't have a fire board secretary anymore, so we need to appoint a new fire board secretary. Scott, aren't you the vice secretary?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Says so
Yes.
underneath.
Look on this.
I'm good with advice.
Yeah. Yes, you are. So anyway, we need a secretary. And that you don't need to keep minutes and all that.
I was gonna say,
stuff.
Chris is gonna continue to do that.
Chris is the board secretary, we just need a secretary for, signing checks and that kind of thing. So,
I think the question is, how often do you sign checks? I mean,
I'm
Not
trying to get
very
more and
often.
more of it done through ACH, so there's not, like, and now I think there's a dozen checks from this month, and
yeah.
I keep pounding all of our vendors, ACH. It saves everybody money and time.
But Pete and I generally sign the checks. But if I'm not here, then we need somebody.
Just so you back up.
So,
Well, I would do it, but I go to Lansing a lot in the winter, and I'm afraid if you needed it right now, I would not be here, so I'm a little worried about it being the backup,
I'm around, I can do it.
okay,
because that's not a problem.
anybody want to nominate
I'm a mate, Dan.
I knew I could do that. I'll second.
No hesitation
Any
there.
discussion? Anybody else want to be the secretary?
You seconded that, Beckman, right?
Yes.
Okay, all those.
Roll call.
That's a roll call vote?
Well, the last one was, so I just kept it the same.
All right. All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Sure. Phelps,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Meridian,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
and Rory.
Yes.
And Fox. I don't know if you can vote for
I
yourself.
don't think I can vote.
Okay, we also have to arrange for you to be a check signer and take Marilyn off from the bank register.
Just a form?
Yes.
But probably gonna need something in the bank's gonna want something in the minutes, you know, we just can't walk in there and say, put Dan in.
So I'll take a motion to make Dan the third check signer on, is it the third?
Well, the bank's gonna want name, you know, we just can't say the third, so they're gonna want names. They're
We'll
gonna
just
want-
update it,
Oh.
we'll just do a document, just put the check signers on.
Okay, so do we need a motion to make you, me,
Dan
Dan,
and Eric.
and Eric check signers, right?
Why me?
You're the vice chair.
Oh, vice chair.
Just checking.
So, somebody move it.
I'll make the motion. To say what you just said.
I thought Scott was the
Second.
Second by
Okay, any other discussion?
Who were the three people? So Dan, you, and Scott, or Eric?
Eric.
Eric,
Eric Beckman.
Dan,
Yep.
me, and then Peter's assigned. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, we have a new secretary. Okay. Janet?
I'm pleased to announce in your packet that we were awarded a 2017 Life Safety Achievement Award in recognition of proactive fire prevention efforts that our organization has made towards improving your community safety behaviors. So just wanted to include that and let you know about that. Then the next item is Mary Whiteford took the time to send all of our first responders, every person on the roster, by name, letters in memory of 911, just a thank you for what we do, and distributed them at our last training session. There were a lot of people really touched by it, that she would do that. They were all individually signed, so it's pretty nice.
Nice.
Want to share that with you.
How did the life safety, whatever, how did that come about?
We applied, well, we've got another one up there too. We apply and submit it based on what our community's reduction efforts and fire codes and things like that, and that's what we submit an application, and if we qualify, we can notify them.
I noticed the press release came with that. Will you, didn't it? Or I think it was the wrong thing. But there was a pro forma press.
We had a number of press releases out, and so the papers have not put anything on. Eric and I we're doing press releases all the time. I think I sent 2 this weekend, but so far they haven't put anything in the paper. Some of them were kind of wordy. And this was one of them we asked to go out.
Okay, public comment, is there anybody in the public that wishes to comment? Fire board comments?
I have a couple. The first one is cost recovery. I've read things in the paper, I've heard things in the public. There's a misconception that this board charges people to go put out fires. And I don't know how we can get around this or informing the public what cost recovery is, because there's a hell of a lot of confused people. They're worried about their house going up on flames and they're going to get a bill, which is not the purpose of the cost recovery. So I don't know if the board needs to submit a letter to the editor or whatever, but there's a huge misconception out there.
Is
That
this
it's-
sudden, or, I've been on 3 years now, and I've never.
I've had questions in public, and there was just a editorial, or whatever you wanna call it, in the paper from an ex-fireman talking about a money grab, and that's been lingering out there for a while, so I don't know what your feelings are, Chief, but,
It's misunderstood.
it's very.
People don't understand what it is, and apparently anybody can say what they want in the paper.
Right.
The board approved,
A schedule,
the cost recovery,
and we have a schedule.
and there's a difference now, it's become like a user fee, and a lot of people don't understand that the cost recovery, there's a fire service fee built into every insurance policy. We've captured that on Elizabeth, we've captured it on Wiley Road. When I went to a building official on the one that was, I think it was in the paper, and it was a wood stove, not a furnace, that was installed. According to the building official in Saugatuck and Douglas, Dan Pohl, that was an illegal installation. Illegal installation. That bill was about $7,000. It was illegal enough the insurance company would not cover it. And what I did is went to all the fire departments and said, would you reduce your truck charges or eliminate your truck charges? They said yes. So that knocked it down to about 4,000 and some change. And we got a letter from that guy thanking us. That fire was observed by one of our firefighters who lived next door to it. Came to the station and said, we got a fire on X Drive. So there is misconceptions about that. And interesting enough, in 2016, when this came about, we had billed for less than 1% of all the calls we had done. It was 0.83%. There were 7 calls, 6 of them were in 2016. And I have that data, it's actually on a clipboard in my office. So there is a misunderstanding, it's been misinterpreted and embellished, and it's unfair is what it is. But I didn't reply because I'm not going to engage.
No, and I don't want you as a
Yeah.
chief to engage,
Yeah.
but this board, I feel,
Yes, sir.
we're behind it. We set the fee schedule, and we're the ones that are being,
Yeah.
people don't realize, but we're the ones that are being attacked, so to
Well, it's
speak.
making it look like we're handing people a bill,
Yeah,
and the $500 service charge is built into the policy. I thought I was doing the taxpayers a favor. You know, why should the taxpayers pay for somebody burning a barrel of plastic and tires? But this is all perception.
Right.
And it's been perceived as I'm billing people because they changed an electrical outlet and their house catches on fire. I have never done that, nor will I ever do that. So it's a bit unfair, but you know what, again, they can put anything in the paper they
yeah,
want.
I agree with that.
I am not engaging. You want to answer it? Go ahead. I know the truth, and the data shows, but this has been so misinterpreted and slanderous that I'm done with it.
And that's why I don't want you
Right.
to be involved with it at all, but
Right.
us as a board are the ones that,
The board put it on tax rolls even.
yeah, we're the ones that put it on tax rolls.
But that's what's happened, and I will not engage.
I think it's important to have like a source of truth, so that people would go to. So is our policy on the fire department website that we can point back to?
Well, it
Maybe your
refers
tax
back to
roll?
the ordinance, because the ordinance was changed as far as that. And, you know, like you saw, there was cost recovery in there, that was intoxicated driving. That's what those were for. And we just got those. It was one we've been working on 8 months. It was in January. So, to answer your question, it refers to the ordinance of the entity. Saugatuck and Douglas are the same, township is different.
Why not add a frequently asked questions regarding cost recovery? just 4 or 5 questions. Do I get charged if this happens? Do I, whatever, I don't know.
One of the things I have that is a binder that, or when I started as chief, that helped explain why an agency would do cost recovery, and that might be helpful. Maybe I could send that to you, and maybe that would help you understand what it is, and maybe that's something you want to share with the public.
I mean, we as a board are the ones that approved this. This is not you. I mean, we approved the fee schedule.
I don't see anybody's name in that other than me.
I know, but there's definitely a misconception out there.
Well, if anybody said it to me, I could definitely defend it, because I've been on, but if they don't say it to me, I don't know how I can help unless letter or the.
Well, I mean, even if someone said to you, when do they send you bill?
Right.
Well, I mean, that's an arbitrary question. Every situation's different. But we do have a fee schedule, and it is up, I would say, up to the chief's discretion, and we waived it all the time. We waived part of it for that gal that was in that accident. As a board, we waived that.
And just for the record, there's 3 of us that review the criteria. Eric Kirkchurch, John Miles, and myself, not just Greg Janik.
Right. And there's a process of appeals.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't like what you hear, you can appeal it. Well, that was the first thing. The second thing is, I sent everyone an email September 20 regarding how upset I was, disappointed on the spreadsheet. I know there's a lot of time and effort put into it. Thank you, Aaron. I'm disappointed with how the township took it, to be honest with you. Maybe it was this board's fault that we should have said, once this spreadsheet's done, Aaron, Chief, myself, and Chris should sit down with the zoning administrator and go through it. Instead of throwing it in the paper, and now it became a political pawn. They got defensive of everything. They got critical. I've heard the comment of Greg's nitpicking and looking for things. I've known Greg for 20 years. Greg has not changed in 20 years. He's black and white, and that's his job. So when he points something out, that's his feeling. And I think there's an issue, and obviously there's an issue between, but there's a general issue in this country about not respecting other people's opinions, whether you disagree with them or not. The township can disagree with Greg, Greg can disagree with the township, but at least have the decency to respect each other's opinions. That's why I'm so disappointed in this spreadsheet, because it should have been addressed and discussed, and if there's assumptions that, oh, Greg could have done that, well, let's sign off on it. Everyone's covering their ass these days because of legal things. So if there's assumptions that, oh, Greg can move that tree, okay, that's fine. Let's have a decent discussion, sign off on it, and move on to the next issue on the spreadsheet, instead of just flat out throwing it out with the bathwater. So that's my soapbox. I'm going to get off it. You know, that's just my opinion, to the point where I was this close to saying to hell with it. I'm done. Because I don't think it was handled properly by everyone involved. And maybe shame on the board for not saying, okay, once it's done, we'll get a group together, sit down as adults and discuss it. So, just my soapbox. Is that 3 minutes?
Well, it was my understanding that that's what was supposed to occur after we did the spreadsheet. But
And it didn't happen, so shame on us.
Well, could we do it in the future when new ones get on the spreadsheet? We could at least handle it.
I think that's the way to handle it if we're going to use
Talk
this.
about them.
If we're going to use this spreadsheet as a tool for both parties. We have, obviously Greg has concerns to put it on there. Well, don't throw out his concerns just because he thinks it's political. Let's sit down and discuss it. And if it's, you know, assume that he can do something, well then let's make sure he knows he can do it. So, moving forward, I still want to see you keep the spreadsheet. And moving forward, I'd be more than happy to donate more time with whoever else to sit down with their zoning administrator and go through it. And let's respect each other's opinions and fix things. Just asinine for bickering back and forth.
Okay, any other fire board comments?
We are working on a plan, it's early in the conception, but to try to get emergency access across the washout from the north to the south.
Awesome.
It's pretty close, and we'll get Greg involved at the appropriate time once we can get everything secured and details nailed down. But it should dramatically, I think, increase response time, decrease the response time from the north down across that washout instead of coming around M89. So in the past, we've tried different ways to do that. It's been difficult because of landowner issues. There is now a situation where it actually could happen. So I'll keep you abreast as we get there.
Anything else? Dan? Aaron? Kathy?
Just agree with Eric.
Good.
Well, I'd like to thank the fire department for their work on the open house. I know Chris works extremely hard at organizing, and the rest of them worked extremely hard carrying out the details. And I was here at 9 o'clock, and I think I was the last one here. They were all here before me, setting up and organizing, and it was probably the fastest tear down I've ever seen, because they were tired and wanted to go home. But I want to thank our firefighters and what they go through, and they're proud of their department. I'm proud of them, and I think they deserve a big shout out for all the work they do for us.
Thank you.
We had a meeting this morning about event planning. Hopefully, we're going to get that a little bit more under control. How many events have we done this year?
34.
I think all these events are really hard on our budget, and we need to get some kind of control, community talent. We've talked about a lot of things this morning, so hopefully we're getting that under control. Is there anything else? Okay, we
Janie may want to say we have a meeting Thursday, just to let, I mean, there's going to be a final.
Yeah, the final Board of Appeals meeting is on Thursday, but there is a notice on the front where the meeting has been noticed.
Good.
Hopefully final.
I'm concerned.
As far as our job, it will be final.
Okay, Aaron was elected to be the chair of that committee, and we set up all the procedures and bylaws and all that stuff at the meeting last month, so hopefully it won't be very helpful. And I want to thank Aaron for taking over as chair. He did a fine job. Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Awesome.